Hi everyone, and welcome to video number 4. No, it's not, it's video number 24 on Weimar, Germany and the Nazi Party. And this video, ladies and gentlemen, is looking at unemployment or work in Germany from 1933 to 1939. Now, if you remember, 1933, January, when Hitler became Chancellor, there were 6 million Germans unemployed, out of work. And for some of those people, they'd voted for Hitler because he promised to give them work. So what we're looking at this time, ladies and gentlemen, did Hitler deliver on his promises? Did he find work for the unemployed in Germany? That's what this video is all about. Now, a great Disney classic. Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's home from work we go. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Hi-ho, hi-ho. But loads of people in Germany were not going home from work because they didn't have jobs. What was Hitler going to do about it? Well, we can divide the video into 4 different sections because there were 4 measures that Hitler introduced to deal with work and unemployment. And here they are. W-I-R-C, work. Sounds like work. It might help you to remember them, ladies and gentlemen. Weapons, rearmament, invisible unemployment, the Reich Labour Service, and the creation of job scheme. 4 different measures that this video is going to try to explain about what Hitler did regarding unemployment. And the first one we're going to look at is the R, the Reich Labour Service. Now, what's that all about? Sometimes known as the RAD, if you see it in an exam question. 1935, it was set up, aimed at men aged 18 to 25 who were unemployed. And the aim was to give them work for 6 months at least. And across the 1930s, over 420,000 people were given jobs in the RAD. Now, what work did they do? Public work for the good of Germany, draining the marshes, repairing the roads, planting trees. It was almost as if they were being put into an army for the unemployed. And what we see, we have photographs, and it's almost as if they're in uniform. They had to wear a uniform. And we see photographs of hundreds of men marching along with spades or shovels instead of rifles. So an army of unemployed. They lived in camps. It was very, very hard work. The conditions were not great. There was often very low pay. It was quite unpopular with this 500,000 people who were forced to do the Reich Labour Service. But from the German point of view, of course, it gets 500,000 people off the unemployment total. So Hitler is beginning to deliver on his promises. And also it was good for Germany because they're doing work which will improve the country. So that's the first measure, the Reich Labour Service. Better put this down. I don't want to dig myself into more trouble. Sorry about that. So, if that's the first measure, what's the second? Well, let's go to the C, the creation of jobs. Job creation. What did Hitler do here? Well, the first thing he did was spend money. 1933, 18.4 billion marks of German government money was spent on creating jobs. Now, that's quite a lot. By 1938, it had doubled to 37.1 billion. Hitler was spending money to try to create jobs. For example, go back to my shovel again, digging the roads. Hitler decided to set up a motorway network known as autobahns. The Germans had motorways a long time before the British did, because Hitler is creating jobs. It was planned that they would have 7,000 kilometres of autobahn or motorway. By 1935, 125,000 men are working, digging the roads. So there's another huge number off the unemployment total. By 1938, 3,500 kilometres of autobahns had been built. It was a boost to German economy. It meant they could transport their goods quicker. And later, after 1939, of course, they could transport weapons and soldiers far quicker. So that's the second measure, creating jobs, the job creation scheme. The third one, and this one is quite important because it's a little bit of a cheat. It looks as if Hitler is fiddling the figures, ladies and gentlemen. Invisible unemployment. What's that all about? Well, it's about hiding or masking the level of employment. Cheating, in other words, not really recording the actual numbers out of work. Well, how could he do that? Oh, take that off. Excellent. How could he cheat like that? In a variety of ways. Number one, the Jews. They were dismissed from their jobs. They were kicked out of their jobs. But of course they had to be replaced. So other people who were unemployed did the jobs. But now you've got the Jews unemployed. Aha! Hitler did not count them in the figures. He said they're nothing, they're no one. So we are not going to count the Jewish unemployed. Can you see what he's done there? Secondly, women. If you remember, women were encouraged to give up work, particularly when they got married, so that they could have children. So women, their jobs were replaced by men to some extent, and women were not counted in the official figures either. Can you see what's happening? He's hiding or masking the real number of people who are unemployed. As I've just explained, the RAD, the Reich Labour Service, took almost 500,000 men and put them into forced employment. Part-time workers were counted as full-time workers for the figures. And the final way that he hid the figures or massaged the real figures, hundreds of thousands of his opponents, for example communists and others, were put into the concentration camps. Now they're not working, but they're not counted in the unemployment figures either. So this one here, invisible unemployment, the Jews, women, the opponents, part-time workers, in some ways they were unemployed, but they weren't counted in the figures. Can you see what the Nazis have done here? They've cheated. They've massaged the figures to make them seem lower. The fourth and final measure, weapons, sometimes known as rearmament. Well, how did this impact on the numbers of unemployed? Well, remember Hitler knows that probably his policies are going to end in war. Therefore, he knows from 1933 he will need to build up the forces, the armed forces. He will need to build loads and loads of weapons to get ready and prepared for war. But a side effect of doing that, it will greatly reduce the number of unemployed. Think back to the Treaty of Versailles. How many men were allowed in the German army? Bonus points for anyone who said 100,000. 1935, Hitler introduced military service or military conscription. By 1939, 1.4 million people are in the armed forces. Well, there's another million or so off the unemployment register because they will be employed in the army or the navy or the air force. Equally, the German economy changes more to a war economy. They're building tanks, aircraft, ships. Remember, they weren't allowed to by the Treaty of Versailles, but Hitler is ignoring the Treaty of Versailles. and he's beginning to build up all the armaments, weapons ready for war. By 1933, when Hitler took over, 3.5 billion marks were spent on weapons. By 1939, 26 billion marks. It's a huge increase. That led to a rise in jobs in those areas. For example, 1933, 4,000 jobs in the aircraft construction industry. Building the planes. Just build it. By 1939, that had rocketed to 72,000. And that was repeated across the arms industry. Tanks, ships, bombs, bullets, guns, rifles, uniforms, etc. Can you see what's happening? The weapons, the rearmament is providing jobs. So there we have the 4 measures that Hitler introduced to try to deliver on his promise of lowering unemployment. Work, weapons, invisible unemployment, Reich labour service, creation of job schemes. Well, did it work? Did it work? Let's have a look. There is no doubt unemployment did fall under Hitler and the Nazis. They created, people think, approximately 4 to 5 million jobs. At the same time in Britain managed to create 1 million jobs. So you can see that yes, to some extent you have to say Hitler delivered on his promise. One thing that helped him, of course, is that the world was recovering. America was recovering from the Great Depression. That helped Germany. But jobs, millions of jobs were created. Yes, there was some fiddling, there was some cheating going on. Jews, women, the figures were hidden. Notice I've mentioned money a lot in this video. There was a huge increase in public spending. Now, some economists have said that couldn't have been sustained long term. It would have bankrupted the German economy. But at the time, the money was spent and many people were happy because Hitler had delivered on his promise. They now had a job. What we have to think about. Yes, they've got jobs. Had their standard of living improved? Had actually their way of life got better now that they were in work? And that's for the next video. For this video, just before we finish, let's have a look at a GCSE question. Here's one. Get my teacher's hat on. It's almost like I'm a teacher. Now, here's a GCSE question for you on unemployment. I think quite a nice one. What do you think? Explain why there was a great reduction in unemployment in Germany 1933 to 1939. And it would give you 2 clues that you could write about. Rearmament and the Reich labour service. So you could do a paragraph on rearmament, which I've given you the details for in this video. You could do a paragraph on the Reich labour service. Again, the details are here. What else could you write about to get top marks? Invisible unemployment. The job creation schemes. So again, you could do 4 paragraphs. This video would help you, hopefully, do really well in that question of explaining why unemployment did reduce during the 1930s. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Unemployment in Germany did fall for the 4 measures that we've looked at. Work. Work till you're muscle bound all night long. 1981, Spandau Ballet, work till you're muscle bound. Well, people did work in Germany, and Hitler had delivered on his promise. As I say, the next video, yes, they were working hard. Was the standard of their lives improving? Have a look at the next video and find out. As ever, I hope it's been useful. Speak to you soon. All the best now.